like to talk for a moment, and I intended to be out by now. I'm sorry. I'm going to take over the slides there. Cheryl. She's fine with that, apparently. We had meetings with a good brother of mine, David Mifflin. And number one, it's handy to have someone, even if he says everything I've been saying, it's great to hear it from someone else, right? It's not just crazy Travis who, whatever. And also, he's a bit older. Sometimes we don't want to listen to somebody who's 37 and barely remembers Reagan. And so, and I'm getting old myself, It's like, Reagan who? It's my conversation I seem to have every day. But anyways, we had Brother David come up, and he told us a lot. Like Ralph mentioned earlier, churches they'll grow, and then they'll peter off, And there's a cycle to it. It's predictable. It happens all the time. And if you don't have that rebirth, if you get over here on the side of the chart where you're just starting to get nostalgic about the old days, and then you start fighting with each other, and that's how the downward curve of that side of thing goes. But if you have a rebirth, if you recast your vision, and if you figure out what God has you here for, hallelujah, you can go back to doing the things and growing again, and you can just keep building on it. And then in a couple more years, you got to rethink everything you're doing again. But that's life. But we had some interesting outcomes, and so I just want to share some of those with you. Our last meeting was to split up into groups and talk about what we dream for our church. If money was no issue, if we weren't worried about being able to get volunteers for things, what kinds of things would we do? Now, first off, I would like to thank everybody who came to these meetings. These were very important. I promoted them as much as I possibly could, and I want to thank everyone who came and participated. Thank you so much. You guys are the heart of the church, and just remember I said that for the rest of the speech, okay? You guys are great. And I was hoping we would have some of the younger crowd, okay? And we got to whip on the younger crowd just a little bit. Guys, someday it'll be our church. In fact, it already is our church. And so, at some point we need to take the ownership of this. And I kind of knew we would only get the older crowd, but, oh, by the way, don't tell them they're the older crowd. Never tell baby boomers they're the older crowd. If you're a baby boomer, you know who you are. But never tell them they're the older crowd. But anyways, so thank you, baby boomers, for coming. Younger than that, we would like your input too. We really will. I know you don't like meetings. I know you're convinced that the old folks will never let you do what you want to do at this church, but they're getting smaller in number. Come on, guys, let's take over, seriously. But anyways, and so that was what I wanted to start off with. The top 5 things that our 2 small groups agreed that we need to do more of. Number 1. If I get mean. Something. Yeah, throw hard wooden toys at me. I'll stand closer. Both groups agreed they wanted to socialize more. Socialize more. Throw something at me. You want to socialize more? I'm going to say some bad things about this first suggestion, and hopefully you won't just get mad and leave. But guys, all we ever do at this church is chat. From a younger person's perspective, I've just got it. All we ever do is, in fact, when I first came, y'all were still doing the handshaking point in the service. And I tell you what, we would still be doing it if everybody would just turn around, shake hands with 4 or 5 people, and the piano would start, and you'd all start to take your seats again. That did not happen. that was not, we thought we were never going to get you back. Every Sunday morning. Okay, I'm going to calm down now. To this day, when Randall starts the first song, conversations continue well into that first song, okay? And we live in an age when the cell phone has been invented. If you really care that much about each other and want to hang out, call each other during the week, okay? I mean, just, seriously. Brother David, who I let talk because I was kind of upset, reminded us that we were talking about reaching out to the community. Because if we're talking about socializing with ourselves, well, guess what, folks? We already know each other. We all go to church together. And I thought, that's why I called in the older guy, because he knows how to say things in such a better way than I do. So, and we're going to come back to the socializing thing, because I think there's also a very good side to it, okay? But here's the thing I want you to remember. The number one thing, and I'm kind of backing out of the conversation I've just been having with you. Even from the beginning, from the law of Moses onward, if you wanted to sum up all of the Torah, all of the law of Moses, everything, and you even ask Jesus this in the New Testament, and this is what he will tell you. Love the Lord your God with all your heart, mind, soul, and strength. And the second is like unto it, love your neighbor as yourself. So you can condense all of the law of God into the Ten Commandments, right? And you can even condense that further into love God, love people. Apparently, and I think this is great, our church wants to love people. That's great. That's fantastic. Let's do that. Let's socialize. But not just with ourselves. But let's make new friends. So I think maybe as we learn to say this at our church, we will not just say love God and love people, which is usually the shorthand that you get for it, but let's love God and let's love other people. We already love each other. I hope we do. Maybe not after this speech. But, let's learn to love God and love others. We've been going through James as a youth group on Sunday mornings, and we were talking about today, pure and undefiled religion before God is to take care of widows and orphans and to remain unspotted from the world. Now, here's the thing. If you get this out of order, you're going to run into some problems. When you are scared to call sin, sin, it means you have switched them. And you want to love people and loving God, and what he has said is somewhere further down the ladder. And I'm just trying to tell you, according to the Bible, this is how it's supposed to go. And I don't get me wrong. We're not going to love God and then make loving other people number 11 or 12 or 35 or somewhere way down here. Because when they asked Jesus, what is the greatest commandment? And he said, love the Lord thy God with all your heart, mind, soul, and strength. Jesus kept answering the question, and don't forget the second one. Love your neighbor as yourself. So not only, we are going to take loving people down only one notch. Only one notch. And if we're already good at it, yay for us. We're only going to take it down one notch. And we're going to put love God right above that. But we're going to make sure that loving people is like almost, it's not even place number 2, it's place 1.5, okay? That's the vision for the church. And if you think you can get a different pastor and get a different vision, I'm sorry, this is in the Bible. It's not optional. And so, you want to socialize more, that's fine. And the other big component was service. Not a worship service, but serving others, which I am excited about. Let's do that. You know, our children's ministries on Wednesday night, including the Youth on Mission, they are not just Bible clubs where the kids come and they get filled with information. It kind of is with the younger kids because there's not as much they can do. But they are missionary organizations. They don't just learn Bible, they learn about missionaries. And then they have a chance to participate in missions. And as they get older and they get into youth on mission, they can even do some more of that. And people have been asking, when are we going to go on a mission trip? And so I'm glad that you're asking, when are we going to get to go on a mission trip? Because I've discovered my kids in the youth group, they don't want to just come and sit and talk about the Bible. They do want to sit and talk forever about whatever gossip is going on at school. So that's bad. But they don't just want to sit and just listen to me talk about the Bible. Heaven forbid, no one wants that. But they do like to get their hands on something and do something. And I'm slowly starting to realize that the adults in this room, right here, right now, that is also what you want to do. Sometimes you want to skip the Bible portion and say, but what do we do with it? And I'm going to say, no, hold on. Let's not skip the Bible portion, but I'm going to try to be a better leader. We're going to get to what you do with it much sooner. Because we live in a needy area. 10, 12, 14% of our area and the Holden area, food stamps and welfare and all kinds of stuff. And they don't just need food, they need a way out of poverty. Because, and here's where I get offensive again. Living in poverty in America is, 9 times out of 10, it is your own choice. There is so much opportunity here. There is so much opportunity. And I'm probably working in foster care and being the person that people call when they want a handout. I know all the stories. I know how it happens. You never thought it would happen to you. And then at the same time that you were living from paycheck to paycheck, you had some kind of medical emergency that your life was a house made out of cards, and someone just came over and like that, and the cards don't stand up on their own anymore. And well, there are always reasons and everything. In general, you go to work every day, you don't overspend what you make, and really nobody in America should be in poverty, really. So we want to teach a way out of poverty, and we want to give away food, we want to give away clothing, we want to give it. It should never be, this is costing us too much, so let's not do it anymore. No. All of this stuff we can't take to heaven with us anyways. Money, food, cars, whatever. We can't take it to heaven with us anyway, so let's just give it away, for Pete's sake. So let's never stop a program because it's costing too much money. We just want to make sure that the resources are going to the right places and that we are, above all, spending them on people's hearts. Spending them on people's hearts. Not just the food that they need for today or the clothing that they need for today. We can be a community-centered church. We really can. That is very possible. In fact, it's very admirable. But the community, even if we eliminate ourselves as a community, I mean, if we're talking about ourselves as the community, we don't need to be a community-centered church. Because then we're just worshiping ourselves, right? And that is expressed, you go into exile over stuff like that, okay? The Babylonians come in and conquer you, burn your house down, and carry your kids off into slavery because you worshiped yourself, okay? That's what the whole month of sermons has been about, all right? But when we decide that the community is outside these walls and we're going to serve them, not just so we can be nice to them, but because we want to introduce them to Jesus. Not just feed them today, but provide them a home in eternity. That is what we want to do. Okay? Then we can be a community-centered church, but with the caveat that we're not actually community-centered, because what's number one? God is number one. That means His Word. That means talking to Him, which we normally call prayer, because we care what He thinks. And we recognize that He is the only one who can do anything about any of the things we're concerned about anyways. And we're done trying to solve it in our own power. And that He's the one who knows where our church should go. And so we're going to ask Him. And so God is at the center of it all. But when people look at the money we spend and the time we put in and all the things that we are doing, it is possible that they can still see a community-centered church because we are doing, like Jesus' own brother James told us, taking care of the widow and the orphan. So, I'm a young preacher. I'm not any good at this. I hope I did okay. That's vision casting. That's where we need to go. That's where we want to go. It involved input from some of you all. It needs more input from the rest of you. And it needed a little adjustment by me, but that's my job because I am the leader. Sometimes you got to be Ezra. Sometimes you got to be, well, maybe I'm not going to threaten to pull any of your hair. Okay? Maybe I won't be Nehemiah, but that's right. I'm prepared. Can't do it back to me. Pull out these little white ones I found down here. But I think the Lord wants to do great things to the Indian Baptist Church, but it must be centered on God, and community is right behind that. Not even in place 2, place 1.5. This morning, I want you to know that it is part of my job when we get off center, you individually or the church as a group. It is my job to at least say something. And you can fire me, but you can't ignore God. Also, if at any point me getting up for most of the service and talking for 45 minutes has given you the impression that I am trying to take away the service from being about all of you and making it about me, I would like to apologize for that, because I can see where you would get that kind of confusion. We sing a few songs as fast as we can, and then we have to listen to our preacher forever. Okay. Maybe you're upset because it's no longer centered on you and whoever you wanted to shake hands with for 20 minutes. And now it's about me spouting off my ideas for 45 minutes. I want to apologize, and I want to point out that that was never the intent. Me talking for a while was to show that most of the service revolves around the Word of God, okay? I'm not God, and I know that. Believe you me. I've tried walking on water all my life. Hasn't worked yet. But sermons can be long in our day and age because people are without the Word. And we want them to know that. So we should be willing to change. We don't have to change everything in Indian Baptist Church, but we should be willing to look at everything and reassess, talk about it, and go the best way for the future. Even if it's your pet thing, like long sermons are for me, or whatever it is, let's do what is best for the church, for the group, and let's love others the way we love ourselves, at least as good as we love ourselves. That's what the Bible says to do.